without further ado, before we continue with the news there, we'll go to our guest, Chris Pehlivanis from the Western United, the CEO of the Western United Football Club. Welcome to the Sports Hour Show, Chris.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for having me on. I was hoping we'd be on the eve of a grand final, but unfortunately we're not. We're still in Sydney, but on the way home, finishing off the season in the semi-finals, which I guess we're all very proud of.
Yes, and look, it was a tremendous effort from you guys. Obviously, I was hoping as well that we'd be talking about the grand final, but unfortunately it's not to be. But how did you see the season in your eyes, Chris?
Look, overall I was very impressed by what we were able to deliver both on and off the field. It was probably a season that was a lot more challenging than I could have ever dreamt of. There was times where I didn't even think we'd complete the season, let alone end up in a semi-final. But ultimately, from a Western United perspective, we've been able to set some great foundations and something that we can build on for the coming years. And we're just super excited where we're going to go with this club.
Yes, and Mark Rudan, the coach, always speaks about the togetherness within the team. Do you feel that all across the club, not just in the senior side?
Yeah, I mean, togetherness, putting people first is one of our core values at our club, and it's important that we stick together. And I think we showed that during this period as well through COVID. We've as an organisation looked after all our people during challenging times. And when we got up here in the hub as well, we were away from our families for 7 weeks. We were 2 weeks of isolation, but the team was, you saw in the performances, they were clearly focused on the job, clearly looked after each other, and we've been able to create a culture that we're just going to build on going forward. And
do you think that you guys had a bit of a competitive advantage because you did some travelling, you didn't have an established home ground this year, so going into this hub up north, do you think that what you guys were doing previously in the season, playing at Simmons Stadium, Whitten Oval and different grounds around the West, do you think that prepared you well for going into a hub?
Possibly, but I think wasn't much that could really prepare you for this hub because it is a different, you're living out of a suitcase for 7 weeks. I think what clearly shown was the leaders in our group, our coach, Mark Rudan, clearly created an environment of, that was allowed everyone to express themselves and really feel part of the family. I know people say we don't have a home, but the home is the whole of the West. So our until we build our stadium, and that's why we've identified our stadium as a need for the West, we're going to take our team all across the West. And it's something that I know people like to say that we don't have a home, but our home is, we're trying to build our brand all over the West of Victoria because we want every boy, girl, fan of football in the West to support our club and really aspire to be part of our club as we go forward.
And how is the big stadium that's being built in Wyndham Vale Council area? How's that tracking? And have there been any changes to the progress of that due to COVID-19?
Look, COVID's impacted all of us, but we're still on track. We're still progressing with that, and we're hopeful that we'll have some really positive news in the coming months in respect to the stadium. The stadium is what's going to give us our competitive advantage in the sport in the A-League. It's something that we can't wait to deliver. We've been in existence for nearly 18 months now, and we've spent a lot of money and a lot of time ensuring that the land that we're going to build our stadium for is ready for development, and we've obviously got to go through the proper processes, and we're nearly there, and we're on the verge of beginning works, which will be really exciting for everyone, not only football fans but the community around Tarneit and where the stadium is going to be built, but also for just football fans in this country.
And have you learnt anything before starting the club and really getting to work on all of this? Did you learn anything from the way other A-League clubs have gone throughout their time before the Western United started?
I think you can learn from all aspects. It's not just from A-League. I think I've done a bit of time when new clubs will, obviously in my time at FFA, but I've also, had the privilege to work at Edson Football Club for 8 years. So I think you keep learning, and I think to say that we'd have all the answers, we don't. But what we do is we adapt. We keep trying to find solutions, and I think you'll see. I encourage everyone in the organisation to have a go and learn from all our, I guess, learnings from the first year. So it was an exciting journey, and I think you'll see if we reflect on it, we're all very proud of our achievements.
And the A-League season, usually it's a summer sport. What's going to happen now? Have you been advised what will happen next season, whether it'll be winter or a summer sport? Has anything been said on that?
Yeah, I think, look, we're working with the PFA, with the players. I'm sort of getting away from winter to summer. The biggest problem we've got at the moment is COVID. I mean, we're due to start the season in October. We can't even travel to some of the places around Australia. So there's no opportunity for us to start as soon as we want to start. So the more likelihood is we'll start hopefully, later this year or early next year, maybe. And hopefully with some of the restrictions around COVID have been lifted, because we need to travel to Wellington. If we can't travel to Wellington, there's no point starting the season unless we go back into a hub model. So it means another compromised year in terms of fans and members getting to games. So the winter summer thing, I think we've got to be careful on this. I know there's a lot of people pushing the winter for us to align with A-League clubs, to align with the NPL and junior clubs and community clubs. For me, I think it's very dangerous, and I say that, and I think it's something that we've got to work through and understand properly, because if you're competing against your grassroots, that's a problem. So if we're playing at 3 o'clock and around the country there's another 180 games on the same time, I don't think that's good for anyone. So I think what we've got to do is ensure that we really find a time and a place where we can trial this, get some really good data, so we make informed decisions. I don't think anyone's done the body of work to know is it better summer or winter or a mixture of both. My personal opinion is let's trial it a little bit now that we get the opportunity because of COVID, where we will cross over and see the impact it's going to have on the game, both from a positive and negative side.
And do you think the soccer will be better off in the long run as a winter game or summer game in Australia?
As I just answered, I think it's difficult to answer this question unless you do the body of work and realise and focus on what are the benefits and what are your objectives of moving from summer to winter. At the moment, I think we align with the European season. We don't align with Asia. But from players' point of view, is it easier to play in winter rather than summer? From fans' point of view, is it easier to come in winter than summer? I think we've got to do the research. So I don't think it's anyone that's making these calls now is just speculating, in my opinion. I know from an AFL point of view, when we do compete against grassroots, and a lot of grassroots members and fans can't come. There's a reason why show rates and memberships are so low. There is a reason why crowds are down a little bit because people can't come to the ground when you're playing your own sport you love. So they'll tune in and watch it later or replay, but we want people at our grounds. We want atmosphere. So I think we've got a good time slot. I think in the calendar of the sport in Australia, I think we need to focus on other things before we start moving that around.
And can you tell us about the impact that Diamanti and Breshad Berisha, Max Burgess, these stars in the Western United team, well, what sort of effect they're having for the club? I know as a supporter, it's, it lights up my eyes to see them. Are you putting a priority on trying to keep these players at the club long term?
Yeah, I think we've shown that. I mean, Diamanti signed for another 2 years. Look, we're building a club and an organisation that's going to have a lot of these talented guys through there. I think what's important is they buy into what the club's about, the values of the club, what Mark Ritter and the coaching group tactical philosophy is. And I think, we're going to give them an opportunity to express themselves on the field. And I think we have that in those players. I think we have also got, a lot of unsung heroes in the team as well. And I think it's got as I said, we've got a really good foundation that we can build off. And I think next year will be even stronger for Western United and their fans.
Diamante, he said probably about a month ago that a second-tier competition should happen in the A-League. What are your thoughts on that?
Second tier is an interesting concept. I think everyone who loves football in this world would, want a second tier, but we've got to do it right. We've got to build our foundations. Let's get the A-League right. Let's get the A-League, how many teams we've got next year? 12. Is that enough? Should we go to 16 before we talk about a second division? What's the financial model of a second division going to look like? What's the KPIs? How is it going to align to the A-League? All those models need to be thrashed out, and we need the infrastructure. Yeah, we need that's equally as important. And we've also got to make sure that whatever we do on this side, we also make sure we look after on the women's side, because one of the big strengths we've got in the game is our women's product as well. So I'm a believer that all these things need to happen in football, but we've got to do them in the right manner, and we've got to build these things and ensure that it's sustainable. The last thing I want to see is clubs falling over or the game being brought down because we all fall to the lowest common denominator.
And with Melbourne Victory, I remember seeing them a couple of years ago, and they're active supporters. And same with Western Sydney Wanderers. They come from like ethnic backgrounds and in groups. What do you think the response should be now and going into the future with that? And do you think they should be embraced rather than sort of cracked down on and not brought along and welcomed at the club? Like, what's your strategy with that and active supporter groups?
Look, supportive of all fans that love our game. I want as many fans as possible to come to our games. I think everyone draws a line in the sand, though. If anyone, conducts in a manner that is, the authorities don't deem as necessary to be dealt with. So I'm not going to comment on Western Sydney and the Victory because I don't really know what the issues were. But my thing is, let's create a family-friendly environment that brings the colour of our fans out, the colour of our players, and and let's make it really an enjoyable place to be and watch football. So we'll work closely with our active supporters. I've got a dream that we can, build an active supporter base that's the envy of any sport in Australia. So I think we will do that. It will take time, but it's going to be, we're going to do it in a respectful manner too, and respect everyone that comes to the ground.
Yes, and last question, looking into the future, what are some of the ways and strategies you have to expand the club? You've got Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory in the state to compete with as well. So you've got the West though in your backyard. So what are some ways you're looking to expand and sort of embrace everyone in your area?
Yeah, great question. It's probably the most important aspect of our development as we go forward. The West is ours. We'll draw the lines up. We'll put some barriers. We won't let anyone in the West support any other club. But to do that, you've got to be genuine. You've got to really focus on the community. You've got to focus on doing community engagement properly, meaningfully, and not just to, just for the sake of doing it. So we're going to be really focused on the community. We're going to, as I said, we're going to build our first stadium. That's going to help us a lot. But being genuine and then expanding our, obviously, footprint. At the moment, we're only one team. I envisage over the next couple of years, we'll have hopefully, a W League team, a youth league team, and boys and girls academies, which will probably ensure that we've got over 10 to 12 teams. Suddenly the family of West United's growing. I want, every boy and girl and that is born in the West to aspire to be part of the West United family. So that's going to take time, but you've got to be genuine and you've got to do the hard yards. So that's what we're going to be focused on over the next 2 to 3 years, to do those hard yards, to ensure that we, are seen to be doing the good, right thing in the community and build it from the foundations that we have set today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Chris, and thanks for coming on the Sports Hour show, and I really appreciate it, and all the best for the future.
No problem. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to coming on again. And as we build Western United, I really look forward to it, and thanks for your support.
Absolutely. Cheers, Chris.
Take care, guys.
And that was Chris Pehlivanis, the CEO of the Western United Football Club.